We're here at the Old School Boxing Gym in Fort Washington, Maryland, near Rosecroft Raceway. We're here to talk to Sam Crossett, known as the Vanilla Gorilla, a professional boxer. Hi, Sam.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
You train here pretty much every day, is that right?
Yep, probably 5-6 days a week.
Could you talk about a little what you do to train?
Just like, regular boxing workouts, sparring. Sometimes I go running around the track, circuits, mitts, bag work, just working on everything technique-wise as far as my boxing, getting ready for my fights.
And you've been a professional for 3 years now, right?
A little bit over 3 years, yeah.
And you have 8 wins, no losses,
Yeah.
and 5 knockouts.
Correct.
And it took a while fighting as an amateur to get to compete as a pro, is that right?
Yeah.
And how long did that process take?
Well, I started training, I was like going to a gym in high school, but I didn't take it too seriously. I was playing football and baseball at Roosevelt, and I didn't have my first fight till I was about 19, and then I fought again like a year later, and then I had to take a couple years off, and then I really started getting back into it competitively in like my 20s. And I was fighting amateur for a few years before I decided to turn pro.
How many bouts, what was your record as an amateur?
I probably had between 20 and 25 fights. I think I lost about 5, roughly.
And do you remember your first fight?
I do, actually. It's unfortunately, I remember I fought in the Golden Gloves. It was my very first amateur fight. The night before, I was just taking it easy. The night before St. Patrick's Day, everybody was going out, partying. I was like, I'm just gonna go rent a movie. This was back when Blockbuster was still around. I'm driving to Blockbuster. The cops pulled me over because they ran I had my tail lights out. They ran my name, and apparently there was some warrant from a ticket I missed because they sent it to the wrong address. So I got locked up the night before my fight for a $25 ticket. Spent the night in jail, got out the morning of my fight, went straight from jail to the weigh-in. Didn't get any sleep. I was exhausted. I didn't eat, no sleep. I was waiting around at the weigh-in, couldn't go home and go to sleep. And, I was beating this guy for the first 2 minutes, and then after that, I just completely gassed out, and he ended up beating me. So, it was just like you couldn't have written a worse story.
Well, that happened the last fight, didn't you?
That happened to my opponent. He got arrested.
Yeah, but he didn't make it.
No,
to the fight.
He didn't. Exactly.
Stayed in jail. So are you going to fight him again at some point?
I think at some point I am, but the problem is I don't want to risk that happening again. People bought tickets to come see me, and the guy had a pretty long rap sheet, so you never know what could happen.
Yeah. I watched a video of that fight, and or the last fight, your June 2018 fight, and that took how long?
23 seconds. I stopped the guy.
23 seconds. How did that feel?
It was great, actually. To be honest with you, I was like, I was so in the moment, I didn't think it was over. And, I landed a perfect punch that we had been working on in the gym. And I caught him right on the button, on the sweet spot. And, it was lights out. But it was like hard to believe. I trained, for 2 months for a 23-second fight, but that's fine.
What's the quickest fight in history?
I don't know. I think I have one of the quickest knockouts in amateur history. I knocked a guy out in 4 seconds. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And you grew up in Greenbelt on Fayette Place.
Yep.
And you graduated from Eleanor Roosevelt High School. Are you the first and only professional boxer that grew up in Greenbelt?
I think so. I've known other fighters that have lived in Greenbelt, and I remember a guy named William Joppy. I believe he might have been a world champion, or he had fought for a world title. I used to see him running around the lake all the time. I used to see him running like near Roosevelt and stuff, but I think I might be the only one actually from Greenbelt, born and raised, so. Pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool. We've had an 80-year history,
yeah,
and you're it. You're our best. And you played football. You were an outstanding linebacker in football at Roosevelt, and that won you a scholarship to Duquesne University.
Yeah.
Did you take up boxing in college as well?
Yeah, I went to school in Pittsburgh, and I would train when I could, depending on my football schedule. But yeah, I trained up there. I actually had a few fights up there. Unfortunately, on my football scholarship, I ran out of money, so I couldn't continue going to school up there. So I came back here, and that's when I started pursuing boxing more and stuff.
You chose your sport.
True.
So you can burn, a 150-pound fighter can burn over 800 calories an hour boxing. What kind of diet are you on to maintain your strength and stamina, plus your optimum weight?
It's a good question. So right now, actually, I'm cutting weight for this fight, and it's really limited. I really have to be careful of what I eat. But even when I'm not cutting weight, I still have to eat. Honestly, it's more so about how it makes you feel, as opposed to like an absolute strict diet. Anything that slows you down or makes you feel a little sluggish, you want to avoid. I really honestly, if I had one piece of advice to give people, would, to be honest, like, cut out sugar as much as you possibly can, like refined sugar, because that's really one of the worst things, and it's in everything. So I really try to monitor that. Another thing too that I never realized till recently was actually the actual weight of food actually makes a big difference. There's some foods that are way more dense than others. So that's actually important too, as far as keeping weight on and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So you do a lot of protein shakes and that kind of stuff?
No, not really. I do more like actual food. I do sometimes a protein shake, but for the most part, like chicken, vegetables. Like if I do have sugar, it's gonna be in fruit, and like a lot of water. I don't drink any soda. But yeah, I mean, it's not like a specific diet, but you just have to be careful. Plus, the thing is though, is like when I'm training so hard, I can get away with some things here and there a little bit more than others that I'm just gonna burn off in the gym anyways. But for the most part, you really have to watch what you eat. It makes a difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you fight right now as a cruiserweight?
Yeah, technically cruiserweight. We're actually trying to work our way down. The problem is, in my weight class, it's the biggest gap in boxing. Most weight classes have between 4 and 7 or 8 pounds. The difference between my weight class and the weight class down is 25 pounds. So my division the limit is 200. The next weight class is light heavyweight, which is 175. I'm just trying to slowly work my way down to see how I feel, see how healthy I feel, because I don't want to go into a fight drained or, weak.
So you're just a little above 175 as a cruiserweight, or?
So I probably walk around at around 200, maybe a little 202 maybe. This fight I'm gonna fight at 185, so I got to cut down to that. I'm gonna see how I feel, and then slowly work my way down to 175.
So, and a lot of people know you in Greenbelt, and many Greenbelters compete in all kinds of sports and all kinds of other endeavors, anything we compete in. Is there anything you'd like to say to them about dedication and determination and the stick-to-itness? You've been doing this for many years now, and you're just getting better. What would you advise them, or what would you like to say to them?
One thing I would have to say is that Rome wasn't built in a day. It's more about consistency than it is anything. It's not, and it takes time. Like, whether you feel like it or not, you're gonna have good days and bad days. You just gotta keep moving, because whether you know it or not, every time you get out there and push yourself in anything you do, you're making progress. Doesn't matter what it is, and you really can't become successful at anything if you quit when it gets tough, or you only show up when you feel like it. I think that's like the biggest thing you learn in boxing. Boxing, honestly, is kind of, you really have to have that mentality, because your opponent isn't going to care whether or not you trained. He's coming to knock you out. And, you know, if you slack off in the gym, that's really going to be the consequence. So, but you have to have that same mentality with anything you do, really.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Hey, well, good luck with your next bout.
Sir,
Sam
thank
is
you.
fighting Saturday at near Dulles Airport.
Yeah, out in Sterling at the Michael Son Sports Complex.
Right. Well, we're all rooting for you, Sam.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Okay.